This is Charlie Mike, the podcast. Veterans helping veterans, talking about things happening in the veteran community, things we've experienced and overcome, such as addictions, PTSD, depression, legal trouble, and we also promote veteran-owned businesses. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it. This is Charlie Mike, the podcast.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Charlie Mike, the podcast. I'm Raul, and I have a special guest with me today. It's Marine veteran, Brian. What's going on, man? How's everything been?
Hey, buddy. Good. Just hanging in there. Just taking it one day at a time, my friend.
Yeah, man, do me a little favor, man. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm 44 years old. I live now in Houston, Texas. Just moved here about a year ago. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. And prior to my injury in 2016, I owned a successful small landscape business. And, I've always been an entrepreneur.
Nice. Man, so the Marine Corps, how many years you put in?
I put in a total of 5 years active duty, and then I spent 3 years in the reserves in Denver.
Yeah. What, Texas, what brought you to Texas?
Just, it's a lot cheaper. I really couldn't afford California anymore with my injury and what happened and stuff like that. So it was a lot better to kind of just pick up and come to another part of the country where, things like homes are about half the cost of California. Plus, I like the people in Texas, I like the mindset here. And, I like the political views here in Texas as well.
Texas is definitely a little different than everybody else. I'll tell you that much. I'm born and raised Texas, and welcome to Texas.
And I love to eat, and I love the barbecue. Yeah. Holy smokes, the food here in Houston is unlike anything else I've ever had in the country. I mean, it's unreal. It's good.
And this whole COVID period, I've put on some weight.
Yeah, I hear you,
man. Let's talk about it, man. Tell me from the beginning. Tell me how did it start? Where it picked up. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to ruin anything.
Sure.
I want you to speak it.
Yeah, sure. So I've been married 23 years, got 4 beautiful kids. Like I said, owned a small business. One day in January 2016, I came home from work. Everything was fine. Took my kids to practice. Woke up the next day, which was a Wednesday, couldn't get out of bed. I was in a lot of pain. And then that pain turned into even more pain. And so I kind of just toughed it out, went to work that day. That night I came home and I was on my bathroom floor all night, just sobbing, just in the most excruciating pain one could ever find themselves in. I was laying on the bathroom floor, just completely naked, just trying to find any relief from my back. My back was in severe pain, and it was causing everything else to kind of snowball. I couldn't use the bathroom. I couldn't do anything except for just lay on that floor and just toss back and forth, moan and groan, trying to figure out what the hell had happened to my back and why, this sudden onset of pain had happened. Again, just looking for any relief from the cold tiles on the bathroom floor. Finally, that next morning, my wife loaded me up in the car, had a neighbor come over and help carry me down to my car because I couldn't walk, and checked me into the VA Loma Linda in Southern California. And what they did is they gave me an x-ray and said that I was fine, that I had sprained my back. But we reiterated to them over and over again that there was no trauma. There was no reason for a sprained back. And so they gave me a shot of Dilaudid for pain, a shot of methocarbamol, and a shot of Kenalog and a bag of pills, and sent me on my way home.
Man, so that's so it just the pain just came just all of a sudden, just hit you.
it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Get home and I'm in my chair, and I spent the next 24 hours there, and the pain just got worse and worse. I was taking handfuls of pills. My wife would come in the room every 4 hours and just give me handfuls of pills. And then I'd be passed back out because of the severity of the opioids and everything I was on. Just slept through it pretty much the whole time in pain. That next morning was horrifying. Again, couldn't walk, couldn't use the restroom. It would just drip out. I would have to straddle over my chair and drip into a bucket. And sometimes I would just fall asleep in my chair doing that because it was so uncomfortable walking around with a heavy bladder, or not walking around, but sitting in my chair with a heavy bladder.
Right.
And my wife took me back to the VA ER that next morning. And at that time, they gave me more Dilaudid. I had a panic attack on the ER floor. I was in so much pain, and some other veterans in the VA ER were consoling her. They gave me a double shot of Dilaudid, Kenalog, and some more Kenalog, and then more pills, and then sent me back home and said I was fine. Said I needed to follow up with my primary care physician. My primary care physician couldn't see me because she was too busy. So she agreed a couple days later to meet me in passing between appointments in the hallway of the VA, which was unacceptable to my wife. Me, I didn't know what was going on at the time. I was so incapacitated. Now I was in a wheelchair. She agreed with the clinicians reporting from the VA ER, said that I was just had a bad sprain and that in a couple of weeks I would be improving. So we took that information as if we were being told accurate stuff from the doctors that we put our faith and trust in. And I went back home, and then that's when I began to just kind of die and wilt away in a chair. And that's where I would end up spending the next 3 years of my life. Just living in a pain, in just pain, physical pain, emotional pain, and mental pain.
So for 3 years it was just pain pills.
Yeah, I sat in a chair for 3 years. I know I fast forwarded from, day 3 to 3 years, but I just wanted to say that, I sat in that chair for 3.5 years, because of the pain, the physical pain, the mental pain, the emotional pain of going through what I went through. And now we can back up and kind of go through that process. I get back home after my third trip now to the VA in matter of days. Finally, after 2 weeks, my wife says, we're going to pay for our own MRI, because the VA would, they were denying a blood test. They were denying an MRI. They were denying the simplest of diagnostics to try to find out what was wrong with me. My wife would call them and plead with them every day to say, hey, why can't my husband get the care, that he needs? He's dying. And they're like, he's fine. Everything's going to be fine. You just got to, you got to, play it out here and, essentially trust the process. Well, that's not the type of process that you want to follow. So out of pocket, she took me to an MRI place. Again, I had to be carried in and out. It was the most painful thing to go through, laying on that MRI table and the condition I was in. The MRI report came back and it was bad. It had a bunch of structural damage all up and down my spine, from my C spine all the way down to my L spine. And it stated that there is a severe abnormality and that attention was needed, and that I would soon need to have surgery. So my wife took that information and she immediately submitted it to the VA Loma Linda and said, see, here is some facts here that you guys should have found out a while back. But my husband does indeed need surgery. We found this information out in February. And so now, again, this started in January. We're now in February. We've been pleading with them. We finally get the green light for surgery, but they stated that the soonest they could do my surgery was December the 13th or December the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to wait another 10 months, 9.5 months to have surgery. And that wasn't acceptable with the amount of pain I was in and the amount of weight I had lost, almost 40 pounds at this time. My muscles, shut down, and I just was like I looked like I was dying. Again, just wilting and wasting away in a chair, not eating, just pills and pills and pills. And then, again, you're sliding into this horrifying depression. You haven't worked. You have employees that were depending on you and relying on you as a small business. One of the main things that killed me is I've always been a provider, a very proud provider of my family, my 4 children and my wife, and I couldn't even get out of bed to go to work. And I just kind of looked and I was like, man, my life is kind of just slipping away from me. So finally, my wife advocated more and more, and she finally, through weeks of tireless phone calls and again advocacy, we were able to get approved for Veterans Choice Enrollment to have my surgery in about 2 months from this time. So we were in February and we got approved to have surgery on April the 30th. So pretty much May. That was the best scenario, and we took that as a blessing. And I stayed in my chair, and it was 40 pills a day, at least, from out about, a total of 40 pills out of probably 10 different pill jars, just eating it like candy. And that was my lifeline right there. That's what kept me alive and not just pulling the plug because I was in so much pain. And again, couldn't use the bathroom, dripped into a bucket. And all of these symptoms that I posed, all of these red flags were all critical. They would turn out to be, very lucky to be alive. Fast forward now a little bit through all the months of deterioration in my chair. I finally got to the hospital on April 30th. They wheeled me in. They did pre-op and I went back. The doctor opened me up and he thought he was just operating on a VA patient that needed back surgery. But when he opened me up, he found that my spine had been moth-eaten and that I had some very serious medical conditions that were going on in my body. So he stopped the surgery, called in an infectious disease doctor. He came in and helped them finish the surgery after they were cutting out spinal bone, tissue, bone disc fragments. They didn't know what it was. They're like, man, is this like a serious infection or is this, bone cancer, whatever it may be. And, pretty much at that time, they finished the surgery, put in all the stuff they needed to, to put in the, the screws, the hardware and all that stuff. And, during the surgery, I ended up having a lot of stuff cut on that I've never gotten back. Stuff like properly using the bathroom. You've got a calf now. You can't have kids anymore. You can't reproduce. You can't do some of the things that you used to do prior to the accident or the injury, if you will. And also have been left with permanent nerve damage, along with a lot of like cognitive type stuff from all the pills and stuff that I had been on for years and years and years. Now we're about 5.5 years into this story and I'm still on about 12 to 15 pills a day, but it's not 40 pills a day. So go back to the surgery. I wake up and I don't know what's going on. My family's a little distraught, a little taken back and scared. I can kind of feel it. And from when I got wheeled to the back to the recovery room, I just had nurse after nurse after nurse come in. They're doing all these tests on me. I was just in my bed. I remember some of these nurses were coming in with like powdery substances, taking blood out of my veins and, you know, kind of mixing it right there on these little trays. And they're doing specimens here and there. And then I'd have to get wheeled down to CT, to EKG, to, you know, to milligrams. I mean, to anything, any test that they could have done on any opening in my body, whether it was up my nose, down my mouth, up my, you know what, every end of my body, you know, doing scopes and tests and all that stuff, trying to find out what was going on. A day later, they said I had tested positive for a bone-eating staph infection that was aggressively eating my spine and some of my internal organs inside my body, which I have kidney damage. You know, I've got some problems with my kidney, and my bladder was destroyed. I have bladder paralysis now because of that. And again, a whole string of neurological type damage and nerve damage all through my body, from my neck all the way down to the bottom of my feet. So having a bone-eating staph infection eat you alive for 4 months, you know, essentially inside of your body, something you cannot see, is it's horrifying. And it's painful and it sucks and it did a lot of damage. After all this happened, I get back home and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to recover from this and I'm going to be, I'm going to be fine. And, 5 months turned into 6 months, turned into a year turned into two turned into 3. And I'm just in constant pain all the time. And procedure after procedure after procedure, surgery, another procedure, pills. And it's like, holy cow. And then I get to year 4 and I'm like, I got to get out of this chair. If I'm just going to die, and I'm going to be in pain regardless on if I get out of this chair or not. So I need to learn how to be kind of like me again, and have a little bit of resilience and a little bit of perseverance, and stand back up and try to at least, live a happy life. Because I did learn one thing that came from this is that when you're depressed, and you're suffering from like anxiety and stuff like that, from what happened, I lost my business. I lost a lot. I didn't lose my home. And that was my saving grace right there. I lost our family vehicle. We racked up debt, hadn't worked for years because of what happened. But one thing I learned is that if you suffer from, depression, all that stuff, pain magnifies. So if you're happy, the pain's still there, but it's a lot less, so I'm just trying to find ways that, that I can kind of improve my quality of life and stuff like that, through eating better and, through doing, small exercises and going on walks and stuff like that, just to enhance, my quality of life, and try to get back all the years I lost. I lost a lot of time, with my family and my kids and, my business and, customers and all that stuff. So, it was definitely a tough go. After finding out that, that you had, that you were so sick that you should have died. I mean, you got infectious disease doctors and surgeons saying, man, I don't know how you made it past 2 weeks, let alone you rode this thing out for 4 months, so it's crazy.
So you went and had surgery at the VA, and you that's where you got everything, or how does I'm kind of.
So I got opened up on Veterans Choice Enrollment. April 30th is when I had my surgery. Is when they found out that I had all my problems and I had my bone-eating staph infection. That was done by Scripps Hospital in San Diego. They saved my life. Those guys were not the VA. The VA paid them to kind of open me up because the VA was behind, 9 or 10 months in their orthopedic department. So these guys opened me up, and then being a civilian facility, they were able to run me through every test under the sun.
Right.
at that time too, when we're getting all this information that was coming in, the words like medical malpractice and gross negligence were kind of running around, as, oh, why didn't the VA do anything for you? Why didn't they give you a blood test? Why didn't they give you an MRI? Why didn't they find all this stuff that should have been found on day one when you entered the VA ER? So, about a year, about a year into my recovery process, and trying to figure out what in the hell has just happened to us. Now I've lost my business, and like I said, everything was snowballing to having to, I lost my business, had to sell off all my equipment, had to keep paying my mortgage and all that stuff. Didn't have anything coming in, then it was our family car, and and things just got really bad. And my medical condition wasn't improving. It was, they had the infection out, but it seemed to have just been getting worse. I mean, I'm sitting here right now and I'm in pain. My spine's always in pain. It sucks. I have to find ways to try to minimize it, because I have, there's nothing I can do about it. So, because of what happened, and because of the injuries that were sustained, and the loss that we had sustained, we filed a tort claim in the VA for medical malpractice and gross negligence. At the 3-month mark, the VA stated that they would have all my information and my claim package back at the 6-month mark. At the 6-month mark, the VA calls me and says, "We are very sorry. We failed to meet the standard of care. We screwed up, and we are going to be settling your claim. This takes a long time. There's a process here. Be patient. It's going to take, several more months, for us to do this. We got to, do our investigation. We have to be transparent, with both sides, interview folks, clinicians, doctors, whoever it may be from the different departments that saw me, and try to figure out why I slipped through the cracks 3 different times in 1 week, when I was, in dire need of emergency care. At the 1-year mark of my tort claim, I received a letter in the mail, which was a bombshell. Dropped it, and they stated that they were no longer going to be settling my claim because they denied everything based on a technicality. The VA General Counsel stated that the clinician, the doctor that they were going to hold responsible for medical malpractice and gross negligence was a independent contractor that was working behind the walls and the walls, behind the halls and the walls of the VA, and was not a VA employee. So even though these independent contractors are wearing doctor's coats that have the words of VA on them, VA business cards, VA laptops, everything that they do and see is VA. They are VA ID badges. Hell, they got keys to the building, and they've been working in these facilities for years and years and years and years. But they're VA employees on, every other day. But when they get in trouble, that's a scapegoat for the Office of General Counsel to say, well, we're not responsible for you. You are an independent contractor. So therefore, we deny it based on this technicality. Now, here's the kicker. They stated that I needed to sue the clinician in state court. The day that they postmarked that letter, my state statute of limitations had expired by 3 days. So what they did is they walked my family and I down this garden path, stating that they failed to meet the standard of care. They were going to settle my claim, and everything was going to be okay. We wouldn't lose everything that we worked so hard for in our entire life. Good American family, good people, did everything right, paid our taxes, contributed to society. We're now absolutely getting destroyed, not only physically, but financially right now, due to no fault of my own. So now I couldn't sue the clinician in state court because I was 3 days past my state statute of limitations. So therefore, they also denied my right to due process. So being an American and doing everything right, and all of a sudden everything, your livelihood stripped from you, you have no legal recourse. And you find yourself feeling hopeless and helpless with in no way out. So that put me into a horrifying state of bad depression, anxiety. And I went to my chair in my room and I didn't come out for a while. It was, close to a year and a half to 2 years, now total, from the start of injury to when I went to my room and I stayed there. I self-isolated. I took my pills. I shut myself off from the world. I was a man that was very, my spirit was broken. I had been destroyed physically. I had been destroyed financially, mentally, and emotionally. And I remember just sitting in my chair, and just crying and say, how can this happen? How can people be led down this way? Like, it's one thing to lose your physical health and your mental health to medical malpractice and negligence, and then for them to put the dagger through your heart of not just you but your family on the legal malpractice. So finally, I think I had enough, and I got up and I leaned over my bathtub and I filled that sucker up with tears, put everything into God's hands, and said, I'm going to change this law that's destroyed the lives of veterans and their families for generations on this 74-year VA legal loophole on how they, manipulate this, and they lead these veterans down these paths of, that everything's going to be okay. And then right when your state statute of limitations, whatever state you're in, but before that expires, they pull the rug right out from underneath you, do an about face, and leave you and your family holding the bag. And that's unconstitutional. That's un-American. It's downright frightening. And and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to do something about it.
What I don't know. I would have been in a rage. I would have burned some places down, to be completely honest with you. What stopped you from doing that?
Yeah, I've always been a man of honor. I know you can do, some people resort to burning things down. That doesn't do anything.
But you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And I totally get it. And we're living in that day and age right now where, where people see an injustice and they just want to go burn stuff down. But at the end of the day, all that does is that, that hurts everybody else, and it doesn't ever solve the problem. There's so many veterans right now in the VA that hate the VA, or they have bad things to say about the VA, but they don't ever do anything to help change the VA. They don't ever bring a solution to the table. They just sit back and bitch about the VA. And, bitching about something doesn't get anything done. I've always been a man of action. And I said, you know what? I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it for my chair, because it hurts to walk and everything else. And by now, I mean, it's been 4 years, and all these years. And it's like, I used to be this happy-go-lucky guy before all this stuff happened, and I'm sitting in my chair, I'm in pain, and I'm like, okay, I'm just got to do this. And I don't know how. I'm just going to take it 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, and 1 day at a time. So I picked up a law book and I started to study the law that they held against me, to not rightfully settle my claim that they had already confessed to on doing. So I put my words on paper, and I drafted a solution. And then at that point, I recruited an online legislative team comprised of other veterans and friends from across the country. We put it into professional bill form. At that time, we had everything we needed in hand to make this correction, that would essentially protect all veterans once they've fallen victim to VA medical malpractice. And of course, this bill that I drafted, isn't going to prevent medical malpractice. Look, everybody makes mistakes. Look, we're all humans here, okay? But what we're trying to do is that if it does happen, you need to have recourse. You need to have a clear path of legal recourse when it does happen, because that's, you know, the way our system, is set up. The right to due process, accountability, due process, recourse. I mean, it's simple stuff here. So I started to send that email out to about 200 reps. It took me about 2 weeks. Didn't hear back from one person, and I became, frustrated, and gave it another couple weeks, and I didn't hear anything back. So my best friend John and I, we jumped on a plane for Washington, D.C. Was it 2018? October 2018, I boarded a flight for DC. I had the original tally bill in hand, and I hand delivered it to the steps of the Capitol building. Walked the halls of Congress, urging lawmakers to change this outdated law that's destroyed the lives of veterans and their families for generations. Beat down their doors. I hand delivered the bills. I was professional, but I was a man of passion, and I tell them the importance of this, and I did this all having pain pills and anxiety meds in my pocket. It was a painful trip, but it was a trip that I needed to take to get the word out there that we needed to get this job done, and that we needed to change this law, because it's ruined the lives of too many veterans due to no fault of their own. I mean, I'm talking, this is an egregious, unconstitutional law that it's embarrassing. I mean, it's embarrassing, and the VA they know this law very well, because this is how they save billions of dollars in legitimate lawsuits against them for medical malpractice, and they know that they make a lot of money on the back end on not paying out these claims. So if they could save it and just walk these veterans down that path until they have no more recourse left, and then they pull the plug, and then they cherry pick these clinicians, because not all VA doctors are independent contractors. But what they do is that it's very rare you see only one doctor during these cases. So if they can just pin one independent contractor, like they did in my case, there was like 11 VA employees that were in my case that all failed to meet the standard of care, but one was an independent contractor. They pinned it all on her, wiped their hands clean of it, and said, well, sorry, nothing we can do. Oh yeah, because the US government's not responsible for paying out any claims that aren't US government employees. So after I hand delivered that bill, within 30 days, Congressman Dave Bratt of Virginia formally introduced the first version of the tally bill. So now I had a bill in the House in the 115th Congress. It was HR 7105. From this point on, I would go on to having 4 bills completely introduced. I put over 11,000 hours of citizen and veteran advocacy into this law change that will now protect veterans when they have been harmed due to no fault of their own in a VA clinic, regardless of the employment status of the clinician or the doctors that are hurting these veterans. And so, I'm very proud and pleased to report that on January 5th of 2021, President Trump signed the tally bill into law that closed this 74-year VA legal loophole. And like I said, it took 2 years to do it. It took 11,000 hours. It took blood, sweat, tears. Again, battling anxiety, battling depression, battling physical injury and mental and emotional and everything else. But we got it done. And yeah, I mean, it's, I look back at it, I look at the pictures and I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't even know how I did it. It's just pure strength through determination, resilience and perseverance that I never thought that I had in me. I just kept going, man. I didn't quit. It was my obsession to get this job done because I know how much it hurt me and my family.
When President Trump signed the bill, what's the first thing he did, or what's the first thing that happened?
Bro, I was crying, dude. I'm not. I mean, you know, it was it was very emotional for me because I had during this process, you had so many highs and so many lows. Every time a new bill is introduced, I mean, I had 4 bills introduced. I had three House bills and 1 Senate bill. And every time you think, you know, a bill is going to be introduced, it's like, man, we're getting headway, and then it dies, and then headway, and then it dies. And, you know, I was doing this in the most divisive Congress in the history of our country. And so every day there's a major news story, breaking news everywhere. And it takes the attention away from Congress, bills like these, and it goes elsewhere. So my job, my duty as a veteran advocate who was doing this job again for the good of the country, didn't come with a paycheck. You're trying to stay in front of them, because if you don't stay in front of them, they will forget about you and they will go on to the next thing. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the same thing is in Congress. So I had to stay in front of them, but I couldn't be a bugaboo. I had to respectfully and, you know, stay in front. I had to become a politician. I had to become my own member of Congress. I had to become, you know, because when this all started, I didn't even have a member of Congress down there in California. Duncan Hunter was indicted and relieved of his duties, of his congressional duties. So again, I didn't even have a congressman when all this happened. That's why I was forced to draft my own bill and take things into my own hands. And, you know, and I had a calling to go change a law for 74 years. Congress has had an opportunity to change this law to protect veterans, but they never got it done. So it took a guy like me to say, you know, enough with this injustice. This is horrifying. There's 20 million veterans out there that remain at risk, for them experiencing this loophole. And I put it on me. I put it on myself, and I said, I don't care if I die doing this. I'm going to pass this law. I'm going to die trying. And I'm glad it passed, because I was getting tired, and I'm still exhausted. I'm exhausted. It's been 5.5 years since my injury. I'm exhausted. I'm still daily exhausted. I mean, you know, I'm slowly starting to learn, like, holy cow, like I can breathe a little bit now. I can, kind of enjoy and live life a little bit more, and just know that all that, from that day in January 2016, it's forever changed my life. It's forever changed the life of my children, my wife, where I live now. I mean, that is a big part of me. And, I'm not going to lie, a lot of me died January 2016. And again, through perseverance and resilience, I began to reinvent myself. And I become very part of the advocacy community, and helped out a lot of veterans with their VA stuff, and have kind of been a microphone to folks that need it, kind of given the voiceless a voice in a time where there's a lot of hopelessness and helplessness out there. I've been able to to help a lot of veterans. So it's all been worth it. And at the end of the day, my settlement came when President Trump signed that into law. It didn't come in the form of a cash settlement. It came in the form of mental closure and pride, and that the tally bill will forever be inked into federal law. So those folks in Washington, D.C., they're never going to be able to do this again and watch the clock and destroy the lives of veterans and their families after they've been injured or killed due to no fault of their own, due to VA medical malpractice. So my compensation came in the form of pride, happiness, joy, and that all veterans will never have to experience what my family and I have been through, and the thousands of us before us, have been through.
I'm speechless, man. I'm never speechless, but I'm speechless to hear everything from the beginning to where you're at now. It's like I told you, it's an incredible story. It's not incredible. Like I know you went through hell, but it's something. Man, what made you keep pushing? What made you keep pushing?
The only thing that made me keep pushing is that it hurt my family and I so much, and with the amount of pain that we were in, especially me, but I could see my family was feeling it too. Their dad, I mean, they almost lost their dad, at an early age, and I was, so. And then to have all these years of issues with the back and forth and the government bureaucracies, the way they, just acted, and how criminal and type fraudulent everything was, I had to dedicate my life to it. That's the only way I was going to get this done. So I had to spend every waking hour and every waking minute on this mission to get it done. Because if I took a day off, it wouldn't get done. This mission would end. The mission would be killed off. So I had to be the leader of this, and I had a lot of good volunteers from across the country that kept it alive. There were some days I needed to take some time off, so I had other people pick up the reins, and then I'd be right back the next day. Right. Just those mental days off, because you get so tied up in it. You're sending. I sent thousands of emails, thousands of phone calls. I had 4 trips to Washington D.C. where I walked those halls of Congress, urging lawmakers to do the right thing and to act. And again, every single time we made headway, there'd be some crazy news story, and all the attention would be turned away. So the one thing that kept me going was 20 million veterans, and how bad it hurt, and how bad it hurt my family. So again, I had to dedicate my life to it, and I just gained a obsessive, if you will, personality, I guess, with this never say die attitude, because that's what it took. I mean, try just doing the simplest thing, like picking up your phone and calling your doctor at the VA and getting an appointment. You may be on hold for an hour. Yeah. Well, try passing a federal law that has been in place for 74 years. It's tough. Try seeing your primary care physician. These guys, try getting a dentist appointment. Yeah. And it's like, man, that's hard. That's a lot of work. There's a lot of calls. It's a lot of, there's a lot involved that, I had to become a politician. Yeah. I had to be absolutely nonpartisan. I couldn't share what my political feelings are. I had to go in there 100%. I am representing 20 million veterans. I'm representing every walk of life. I am representing, we're all green here. And I'm representing every, like I said, every piece of fabric of that flag, of everybody in this country. So I couldn't go in there and go to a Republican and say, I'm a Republican too, or go in there to the Democrats and say, oh yeah, hey, look, I'm a Democrat too. They didn't know who. All they knew is that I was an American on a mission, And I
Exactly.
was in there to change law to protect veterans who have honorably and courageously and have bravely served this great nation. And for this great nation to turn around to do what they do to a lot of these veterans who are injured due to no fault of their own because of horrible care, I'm sorry, but something needed to be done about it. And if it took me and my injury to get this job done, well, so be it. And like what I always say, tell everybody, I didn't choose this job. This job was no fun. This job, uh, I think it probably almost killed me like my damn staph infection because it was, it was so hard and, but I didn't quit. But, like I said, this job, I didn't choose this job. It chose me. And that's what I tell people, all the time. So I'm just glad it's over.
Man, s- what's this sounds crazy, but what's next, man? What?
Well, I'm writing a book right now
Good.
on my story, kind of writing a book, and it's going to have a lot of pictures in it. I think a lot of the pictures, I think the pictures alone will tell the story. I mean, we're sitting here right now. I don't know. We've been talking an hour, whatever it may be. And sometimes, I forget so much stuff in these stories. I just
Oh
talk off,
yeah.
off the top of my head. But there's over, there's 5.5 years in, of information, that 4 years of that was full of just nonstop action, and crazy highs and lows and, happy points and sad points and dark days and, and bright days, but every day was full of pain. And now I live with chronic pain and, a lot of other, I've got dozens of other, permanent chronic issues in my body now. And, it's unfortunate. But that's the hand I was dealt, and we're in a better place now. And we're able to live a little bit more financially free because I did not lose my home, which is a great thing. It's one of the main things that we kept through the grace of God and through friends and family that had donated to my wife when I was sick to keep that mortgage paid. So we were able to sell our house and come here and buy something for half the price. That fits our needs. So it's given me some time to reflect and to again to rebuild and start over and recapture a lot of the days and a lot of the time that I lost over the last 5.5 years.
It's insane, man. I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna love living in Texas, man. Texas treats its veterans like no other. This is a whole man. I love it here, and just the people in general. I have, man. Did you ever get a Y?
No, the staph infection was in my back. They said I could have picked it up anywhere. So the infectious disease doctor says, did you serve overseas? And I'm like, well, yeah, I've been to, a bunch of different countries, probably, I think a total like eight or nine different countries when I was in the Marine Corps, and then a couple other countries when, as a civilian. He says, I could have picked up something, a decade ago or 15 years ago that attached to my spine and turned into staphylococcus. It's a really long word.
Yeah.
And it just was dormant. And then one day it woke up and it began to eat and eat and eat. And this is very rare. It doesn't happen very, very often. And if it does happen, it's in third world countries where they can't really figure it out and diagnose it because they don't have the medical systems and the medical treatment facilities that we do here. So to happen to a guy in Southern California where they have a lot of hospitals and a lot of, good quality care centers and stuff like that, it's just, I completely fall through the cracks, on more than one occasion. And, when they opened me up, they saw it, they didn't like it. They cut it out and they're like, damn, this did a lot of damage. So I had to have a PICC line in my arm for 3 months. And that was my wife had to administer some very potent antibiotics for 3 months, 3 times a day. These very thick, very long, thick, goozy, cold antibiotics. So you get the saline, you get the flush, you get the antibiotics, and just the smell of the alcohol pad, and having the PICC line, and it's just like, man, just bad memories. And then even after the PICC line, they're like, you still need to be on an antibiotic because it's still kind of there, the infection, because it was so much. I mean, they had to kill so much of it, and so I had to do a month of pills, big old horse pills. And finally, after that month, they're like, okay, you're good. You don't have to do that anymore. So 4 months of high-end hardcore antibiotics, which, it did a number on my belly. It destroyed my gut. And it's left some other, damages down there too. But yeah, I mean, it's a never ending snowball, effect, because of my spine and all the damage that it did, like my C-spine's all jacked up. I got to go to the chiropractor every week now. They have to do spinal manipulation. I have a lot of, urology appointments and stuff like that. You got a cath, you got to do this, you got to take that, you got to, there's a risk of infection down there all the time for urinary tract infections, and because it's just it just snowballs. You've got neuropathy, and it's just it's no fun. It's something that no 44-year-old man should be, having to go through colonoscopies and cystoscopies and every oscopy you can think of. Every year now, and sometimes even quicker than that. Still got to do my blood every quarter, so it's been a lot of needles and a lot of tubes, man, over the last 5.5 years. But it is what it is. I look fine on the outside, but in the inside, my body is absolutely destroyed, and it's not pretty.
I'm sure you're in a lot better place mentally.
Yes, I'm much happier these days. I do have my days, unfortunately, of depression,
right?
And I do suffer heavily from anxiety. I know a lot of the times people can't even tell, but I'm medicated for that as well. But yeah, and then after, well, I had it before. I had the anxiety before my accident, but I managed it, fairly well, even though that I did have some, some bad times with that. But after the accident, or the injury, I don't call it an accident because it was all negligence, but the injury, it magnified it like 1,000%. So now, like I said, I just take everything just one step at a time, and count my blessings. I'm full of gratitude. And like I said, man, I'm just recapturing a lot of what I lost, and starting over. I got a book coming out here soon, and hopefully that will give me some opportunity, because I'm not landscaping anymore. I lost my business. I'm not starting that anymore. I live in pain, and now there's just so much stuff that I just couldn't go out and work, right now, given my, my current condition. But I wrote a book to hopefully spark some interest of me maybe telling my story in front of groups of people, and become a speaker, go out and speak three or four times a year, and give folks hope, and maybe become a mentor, for advocacy, and how to effectively communicate with Congress, and how to effectively spark positive change. Again, without destroying personal and private property, across the country. That all it does is it brings our country down. And definitely, I wanted to do something that would have a positive change and have a positive ending after such a horrifying start.
I'm gonna tell you, man, from me and 20 million veterans, thank you. You put it on your back and you took it, man. So we really appreciate everything you've done and you continue to do, man. Don't um just know the gratefulness, and as I speak, man, I've gotten chills. I don't know how many times throughout your story. It's just it's incredible. Can I did you ever think, have you thought of a title for your book yet?
Yeah. It's called I didn't choose this job. It chose me.
I like it.
Yeah.
Like, now I have another question for you. This one's kind of serious though, man.
Hmm.
You ever thought about going into politics?
No. I'm not fit for that, man. Physically, mentally, no.
Oh
No. It's
man, you talk
you
real
know,
good, man.
yeah. I played congressman for 2.5 years, 4 trips to DC, 8 states, um, 11,000 hours. 4 bills. That we wrote, and so I served again, in that capacity. Didn't get paid for it, as a congressman would, and I did all the work,
Right.
that probably a lot of congressmen wouldn't have done because they have their own staffers and all that stuff. So the way I look at it is, I've been there, I've done that, I got the T-shirt, and I didn't enjoy it
Yeah.
because it is a dirty business, and it shouldn't be, but it is, and it's something that I don't want to ever put myself in. Now, I will help folks get elected. I will help advocate for folks, that do see politics, in their future. As long as I heavily believe in what they are doing, I will help those folks. But I do believe that politics is very, very important, especially in the times we're living in right now, kind of at a crossroads right now in our country. And we need good men and women to step up and fight for this country. And you know and like I said, I'll put my hat behind the folks who I think will go to Washington, that will best represent the American people, and the American people's best interests.
Yeah. Amen to that. Have you had the opportunity to meet any of our local politicians? We have some good veteran ones in the
Yeah,
surrounding area.
Senator Ted Cruz. I got to meet him, and Representative Brian Babin was actually a co-sponsor on one of the tally bills. I've got to meet Steve Toth. Yeah, he's a state rep. He's become pretty good friends, of mine, and there's I mean, I've met with 300 members of Congress across the country and senators. So I mean, yeah, so I know quite a bunch, of them. And Mark Meadows has become a champion and a friend. When he was a congressman, he was a big sponsor of two tally bills that he introduced, and then he went on to be President Trump's chief of staff.
Yeah.
Mike Levin is a huge champion of the tally bill. He's in California, a Democrat congressman. One thing I did is I went to both sides. I had Senator Blumenthal, who a lot of veterans don't like and appreciate, but you know what? I needed him to get this tally bill passed. So when you are in DC and you're working that political, fence, I had to be on both sides of that fence, because the only way that things get done in DC is somebody's got to play the adult in the room and bring people together and say, look, guys, for the good of the country here, to protect 20 million veterans, are you willing to cross that aisle? And the question was a really simple yes. But to get it through these guys' heads was very difficult because they don't like each other. And
Yeah.
again, we are working in the most divisive Congress in the history of our country. That in itself right there, that's tough, man.
I couldn't
I
imagine.
mean, that right there, it's exhausting. and then you add pain to that. It's absolutely exhausting, and I'm still tired. Like I wake up, I'm tired. I'll sleep 12 hours. I'm tired. I mean, I see it in my eyes sometimes, see it in my face. This 5.5 years took a toll on me that most folks they'll never understand it.
Man.
I mean, it's something that it's just crazy. I look back at it and I'm like, I just, it's crazy. It's sad. It's happy. It's angry. I mean, there's just so many emotions. So many life emotions, and I've learned a lot about life too over these last 5.5 years. I tell you, man, I'm definitely a very wise man beyond my years now, and and I could definitely help a lot of people with a lot of different problems, and stuff going on in life, because I can say, hey, you know what, I've been there, I've done that, and here, let me help you, and that's where I've done really well with a lot of folks across the country that have needed, just someone to talk to, or some support, or some getting advice. Hey, I want to do a bill too. Hey, how do I do that?
Yeah.
All right, well, grab a piece of paper and a pen, and let's jump on the phone, and I'll give you a quick 10-minute course on it. But at the end of the day, it's going to take 100% of pure dedication and determination to see any goal or any mission through. You can't do it for one day or 1 week or 1 month and then feel so proud about yourself. No, you got to finish the job.
Yeah.
You got to go from start to the checker flag, all the way to the, to the pin. So, that's what I did. And that's what I'll continue to do. If I ever see another, thing come up in my life where something needs corrected, I won't bitch about it. I'll simply draft and offer a solution.
A man of action.
That's it.
Love it, man. Again, man, thank you for everything you've done for us and you continue to do, being the advocate that you are. I'm proud to have talked to you today. I want a book, so let me know when and where I can buy it.
Done.
Man, and we definitely need to catch that lunch too.
Well, yeah, I want to take it to Honor Cafe. My good buddy Sadler, he owns it, and I'm in there. I'm in there all the time. I'll buy you lunch.
Oh, no.
Buy a book. I'll buy you lunch, man.
I'm buying.
Well, I'll give you a little gift. I'll give you a little gift if you buy me lunch. I'll give you a little gift, and it's something different. It's not even a book. It'll be another gift. I got you.
Done.
But yeah, man, we can go up there. It's in Conroe. It's a great place. Great food, great environment, great people. Just, yeah, you'll love it. And you got my cell. Hit me up anytime, and we'll make it happen, man. I can't wait to meet you in person and shake your hand, sir.
Yes, sir. Again, I appreciate you being on the show, and everybody, thank you for tuning in. Charlie Mike.